Yes guys, what is happening? Welcome back to Cop Noise TV, where it feels like I ain't done a video in ages because obviously Liverpool are out of all the competitions now, so we're literally playing one game a week, which feels completely weird. I don't know if I like it. I was quite looking forward to getting towards the end of the season, but you know, when you get used to being that pattern, that consistency of playing midweek, weekend, it's just thrown me completely off, if I'm honest, and I've had a lot more time on my hands. I don't know what to do with it, but here we are. We've got a game coming up against Crystal Palace this weekend, which unfortunately I'm going to have to sit this one out because I am jumping tomorrow morning on a plane to Portugal to go play a couple of rounds of golf with my pals. So yeah, I'm not going to make it to this game, but it is what it is, you know, needs must and all that. Crystal Palace, what do we reckon to these? Currently sat 13th in the league, 43 points. I think it's safe to say they're not going to get relegated. They might jump up a place or two, but they pretty much are where they are, and I reckon that probably 13th is roundabout where Crystal Palace normally do their business, so the fans will be happy, I reckon. So obviously FA Cup winners from last season, Community Shield winners, going far in Europe, which I'll get onto in a little bit. So I think as a Crystal Palace fan, you've got to be pretty happy in told, which wasn't the case rewind back to October, because the manager Oliver Glasner revealed, well, confirmed, however you want to call it, that he was leaving Crystal Palace at the end of the season. And after that, they went on an absolutely dreadful run from mid-December to the start of Feb. They went on a run where they didn't get a win for 9 Premier League games, which led to some fans basically saying, well, do you know what, you're going in the summer anyway, why don't you just leave now? But listen, credit to the manager, and to be fair to them, they've turned the fortunes around, and in their last 8 league games they've managed to string a decent set of results together. They've won 4, drawn 2, lost 2, which puts them pretty much mathematically safe and has made their fan base a lot happier than what they was around Christmas time and into the new year. So with that being said, this has now allowed Crystal Palace to fully focus on the European Conference League, which they've got a semi-final coming up against Shakhtar Donetsk, which, fair enough, it's the Europa Conference League, but credit to Crystal Palace. They've done well to get this far, and if they go any further in the competition, potentially win that competition, the manager will go down. Well, I think he will already go down as the greatest manager in Palace history anyway, for giving them the FA Cup and the Community Shield. But certainly, if he manages to get them to the Europa Conference League final and potentially get more silverware, he will go down as an absolute stonewall legend of that club. They should build statues of Oliver Glasner if he manages to get them European silverware. And I think it's safe to say now that this is probably their biggest game. They can solely focus now on the Europa Conference League. So would that mean that Crystal Palace potentially might rest a few players, having one eye on that competition? Possibly. Given the fact that Shakhtar Donetsk is only 5 days away from this competition, the first leg is away from home, I think this would potentially sway Oliver Glasner into who he doesn't select for this game at the weekend at Anfield against Liverpool. Now, I think it's safe to say that when looking at Palace players, their biggest threat is in the final third. We all know that Jean-Philippe Mateta, he wanted to try and get a move in the January transfer window. It didn't happen. He picked up an injury. The fans obviously wasn't really happy with the fact that he wanted away from the club, because it seemed like everyone at that time wanted away from Palace. Obviously, there was the manager going. Mark Gay wanted to go, which eventually went to Manchester City. Mateta wanted out. There was a little small cluster of players that basically were trying to get out of Crystal Palace, but they managed to keep hold of him. He's come back from his injury, scored a few goals, and pretty much all seems to be forgiven now when it comes to Jean-Philippe Mateta. So with that being said, given the fact that I think Mateta is probably the biggest threat for Palace, they will want to keep him fresh, I have no doubt about this, for the European game in midweek coming up. So when looking at Palace's team selection, I reckon they'll probably go with Strand Larsen up front, which Palace paid quite a bit of money for in the January transfer window. I think it was around about 40 million quid, something like that. And I don't think he's worth anywhere near that, if I'm honest. He had a decent season for Wolves last year. Newcastle obviously ramped up his price tag because they needed a striker in the summer because we pinched Alexander Isak from them. And ever since then, Palace have kind of just wanted around that £50-40 million mark for him. I don't think he's worth anywhere near that, but I reckon he'll probably start up front for Palace this weekend. They also paid a lot of money in January for Brendan Johnson, which he's a player, I don't rate him that much. He was a big fish in a small pond, if you like, at Nottingham Forest. He went to Tottenham, didn't work out for him, and now he's pretty much dropped back down the pecking order again, back on that kind of mid-table to relegation level, if you like, at Palace. He's not really done much, so who knows whether he potentially would get a start this weekend. Another player to watch out for, which Palace have got in the ranks, is Adam Wharton. I think we can all say that he would be a great asset for someone like Liverpool. You know, a ball-playing midfielder. He gets around the pitch. He's silky in terms of carrying the ball, can put his foot in. He's got an eye for a pass. However, he has been injured previous weeks. I don't know whether he's going to be fit, but again, could he be one of them players that, if he is fit, would Glasner look to rest him for the Europa Conference League? Potentially. And a couple more players that I wanted to mention. One is a player that I really like for Palace, actually. It's the right back or right wing back, Daniel Muniz. I think that's right. He's a Colombian international, I believe. I rate him as a fullback. I think he's a decent player. Every time I've watched Palace, he looks busy. He's good in defence. Not a lot gets past him, and he's pretty quick as well. And then the other player that I'm going to mention is potentially ex-Liverpool defender Nathaniel Clyne. I didn't even realise he was still at Crystal Palace, but I looked on their team sheet when they played against West Ham earlier on this week, and he was on the bench. So the potential that Nathaniel Clyne could play in this fixture against his former team. So Liverpool took a step closer to securing Champions League qualification for next season by going to the Hill Dickinson Stadium last weekend and getting a 2-1 win over Everton. And the players this week should be hop, skip and jumping into training after that. I mean, what better motivation, what better preparation do you need for your next game by winning against your local rivals? The fact that it was in their new stadium as well. It was the last minute winner. I mean, that is the ideal prep to say, right guys, we've got so many games remaining now in the Premier League. Let's give it a massive push. Let's make sure, because Liverpool have still got third in the sights. I know we're all saying about, let's just make sure we finish fifth, worst case scenario. I'm not down for that. The fact is, Chelsea have obviously fallen behind now massively. They've sacked the manager. The club's in absolute fucking disarray at the moment. They haven't scored a goal for, I think, 5 games. So we've got Chelsea to play as well. So we could pretty much write them out of anything to do with Champions League qualifications. And I think the likes of Bournemouth and Brighton will potentially do that anyway. We've got Villa to play. We've got Man United to play. Those guys are... we can see them. You know, we're behind them, but they can see us in their rear-view mirror, and we're coming. And Liverpool should have their sights set now on that third position. And I'm not settling for just, let's just scrape him by getting 5th. I want to finish as high as possible. And look, we all know it's been a disappointing season. The way we got knocked out of the FA Cup was abysmal. You know, we were all hoping that potentially we could get a domestic cup run given the fact that the league form was so poor. We flogged the Carabao Cup earlier on in the season to focus on the league and the Champions League. That obviously didn't work out. I mean, going back to the FA Cup, there's no shame losing to Manchester City. They're potential champions, potentially. Who knows, but they're one of the best teams in the country. They're one of the best teams in Europe. So no shame losing. It's the fact that how we lost. And this has been a common theme now for Liverpool throughout the whole season. And I'm not going to bang on about it too much because there's videos out there on my channel, on everyone's channel, for how we play, how Liverpool are approaching games. And as injuries right now are not the best. You know, what Liverpool do in the summer is a story for another day, a video for another day, which I'll probably do in the coming weeks. But we've just got to fight with what we've got now, and all our games are winnable. Obviously, yes, we've got Villa and Man United away, but Leeds beat Man United at Old Trafford. So if Leeds, who have pretty much only just avoided relegation recently, can beat Man United, then Liverpool can most certainly go to Old Trafford and beat Man United. But we've got to do the business against the likes of Crystal Palace this weekend. And yes, we've got a few injuries, as I've just alluded to. Obviously, we all know Hugo Ekitike's out now. Conor Bradley's out long term. There's a potential that Mamardashvili may be out, although his injury was not muscular or anything like that. It was just an open wound, so there could be a possibility that he gets stitched up and he's back playing for Liverpool again. And listen, if he doesn't play, so be it. It is what it is. Liverpool have got more than enough quality with their outfield players to be beating the likes of Crystal Palace, who, like I said earlier, will most certainly have one eye on the Europa Conference League semi-final coming up. Right, let's have a look at what I think Arne Slot will do for a starting 11 against Crystal Palace this weekend. So, it's either going to be Mamardashvili or Woodman in goal. I'm doing this before Arne Slot's press conference, so I don't know the latest on Mamardashvili. So let's just say it's going to be one or the other. In terms of a back four, I think this is probably the easiest one I've predicted this season. The fact that Jeremy Frimpong didn't start against Everton, I think he will play at right back. The fact that Milos Kerkez didn't start against Everton, I think he will play left back. And therefore, Virgil van Dijk and Ibu Konate, who potentially has signed the new deal for Liverpool. Let me know in the comments what you think about that. They will pair at centre-back this weekend. Ryan Gravenberch will play because Ryan Gravenberch always plays for Liverpool. I think Alexis McAllister will come back into the team. He was another one that didn't start against Everton, so I think he will come back in. And then you've got Dominic Szoboszlai, who will play the other number 8 role. Bit of a tricky one this up top because I don't want to see this. I really don't. But I think Florian Wirtz will operate again from the left-hand side. I think Alexander Isak may sit this one out and get a place on the bench. I think Cody Gakpo will play up top. And listen, I want to give a shout out to Cody Gakpo because I think he had arguably one of his best games against Everton. I thought his first half in particular, he was direct, he was fast, he was quick, everything he did was forward, and I liked his game. So I've got no problem if that Cody Gakpo starts up top for Liverpool this weekend. And then on the right hand side, we've got the Egyptian king, the one and only Mohamed Salah, who looks like a different player these days. Since he has come out and revealed that he's going to be leaving Liverpool at the end of the season, it seems like a weight's been lifted off his shoulder, and maybe that was bogging him down earlier in the season, amongst other stuff. I'm not making excuses for him. Ultimately, he's one of many that's not been firing this season, but I think he will keep his place on the right-hand side for Liverpool at the weekend. Score predictions, I think Liverpool will turn up in this one. I think we'll have a good game. As I say, I think Palace will have one eye on Europe coming up in the week, and I think Liverpool will run out 2-0 winners. I think there are going to be goals from Mohamed Salah, and I think Alexander Isak will get one from the bench. Guys, let me know your thoughts on Arne Slot's starting 11, and also give me your score predictions in the comments below. And if you haven't done already, please make sure you like and subscribe. I'll catch you in a bit.